I'm great, thank you. Nice to see you guys.
Well, we're on Stand Tall with Dave Brown, Judy Brown, Donna's here, and we're going to be talking a lot about school choice here in the next little bit. So, at Stand Tall, we're interested in getting the facts out there on education, politics, Jesus, sports, and people stories. Today, this kind of encompasses a couple of those education and people stories. The whole, public school thing. Judy's been a teacher for 34 years. I had 20 years and 4 years on the school board. And Donna, here you are with us, and we appreciate you being here. You put a lot of work into the school choice. Tell us what you're doing.
Sure. I ran for school board, but was not successful, and just basically asked God and said, okay, what do you want me to do? And he said, school choice. So I researched to find out what that meant by looking at statutes that have been proposed in Oregon and passed across the country, and realized it was a very common sense approach to just letting parents who know and love their children decide where they should go to school. And through the two policies that we're promoting, students will gain access to all the different learning environments: public district, public charter, private school, homeschool. So what we're doing is we're empowering parents with the right and the funds and the ability to make a decision for their child so that the child can get the best education possible.
So can you tell us a little bit about the process that you've gone through? You've researched. Tell us about the process.
Sure, you bet. So I reached out to people in about 20 different states, policy people, school choice advocates, litigators, the team that had taken some school choice cases all the way to the United States Supreme Court. I looked at model legislation that had passed, talked with moms, dads, grandparents, teachers, Oregon legislators, constitutional attorneys, and we all put our heads together to come up with two policies. One is open enrollment, which allows a student to choose any public district or charter school that has available room. And the other one is school choice, which lets a child take a portion of what would be spent on the child in public school and use that to pay for private school, homeschool, tutors, education therapist. So in preparing these measures, we wanted to consult with all sorts of different people and get input, but then write them in a manner that's focused on the needs of the child. Because across the country, school choice has been written by legislators basically from the perspective of the government and empowering the government. And in Oregon, that's not going to work. So we had to do it ourselves, and we wanted the focus to be on what's best for the child. Let's make sure that all the taxes that we pay that go to education are actually spent on the child and used to make sure the child gets a good education. So the process was drafting them, then sending them to the Secretary of State. Then there's the first phase where we have to get sponsorship signatures. So for each measure, we needed to gather 1,000 signatures. Then we turned those in. Then the next step is the Attorney General prepares a ballot title, and then anybody that wants to comment can comment. And then the Attorney General thinks again and decides whether they're going to make any changes. And we basically had come through that process unscathed. And then our opponents, the Oregon Teachers Union, sued the Attorney General, and that case went to the Supreme Court, and they battled over a few words. Basically, it just wasted time for us to be able to gather signatures. And then we finally came out of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court told the Attorney General to basically certify the ballot titles, and then we were off and running gathering signatures. So now we're right in the midst of gathering signatures. We need about 200,000 signatures for each measure to have more than enough to turn into the Secretary of State. So when they go through their statistical process and knock out a few, we'll still have enough to be able to put the two measures on the November 2024 ballot, and then all Oregonians can vote on them. And finally, we'll be able to bring school choice written by parents, for students to Oregon.
So where are you at in the process? How do we help you with getting those signatures? Are you in that process? And when is this that we know it's going to be on the ballot?
So we are right in the middle of gathering signatures, and we would love help from anybody across Oregon. They can go to our website, educationfreedomfororegon.com, and there's two kinds of petitions. One is a single signer, where you just print it out and sign it on behalf of yourself and mail it in. And the other one is a 10-liner, where you can sign on line 1, and then you go ask your family and friends to sign lines 2 through 10. And then you sign again at the bottom as a circulator. So we have a petition for each measure because we have the two separate measures, and we have to gather the about 200,000 for each. But luckily, almost everybody signs both. So if you were to present a 10-liner for each measure, people sign both. We have to gather up all those signatures by the end of June, June 30, 2024. I have to process them, number them, go through them, and then I drive them down to Salem to the Secretary of State on July 5. Then we turn it in, and they take about a month to statistically sample. So then by hopefully the beginning of August, they'll say, yay, you have enough signatures. Then they give us a number, and then our two measures go on the ballot. Then in November 5, 2024, all Oregon voters can vote on them. They can vote yes on both. Then Oregon parents will be able to say, hey, I have 3 kids. One kid needs to be in a public district school. The other one needs to be home with me here being homeschooled, or maybe another one needs to be in a charter school. But it allows children to move freely among all of the different learning environments to find the one that meets their needs, instead of being trapped in a particular one, maybe because the parents don't have enough money to pay for an alternative, or they're assigned to a school based on where they live, but it's not serving them. So these two measures will just break up all those barriers, let the parents, with talking to the child, figure out what's the best environment. Then the child can go there, reach their full learning potential, complete high school with a skill set, be able to go out, go to college, go to trade school, start a business or whatever. And the school choice amendment is wonderful because it allows parents to tap into some of the money that would be used in a public school and customize it for their child. And it's about $7,600 per child per year. And if they don't spend all of that in 1 year, the excess will flop over to the next year. And then when the child completes high school, that child could have a pot of money remaining. And we don't want to just give it back to the government because it's for the benefit of that child. So we're letting the child then use that in Oregon because it came from Oregon taxpayers, and they can then use that at an Oregon college or university or trade school or vocational school. So we squeeze every ounce of value out of that money, give the chance of a lifetime for these kids to be able to go through high school and then go on to higher education if they want in college or trade school. And all of that will then help Oregon because our kids will come out of high school and then be able to go into higher education, become more prosperous, and then hopefully stay here in Oregon, and Oregon will benefit.
Hey, Donna, what was the teachers union's big complaint about what you're doing?
Well, they don't like anything that disrupts their monopoly. They like it right now where, based on kind of redlining how mortgages were made a long time ago, they would basically create zones where, depending on where you lived, that's the school you would go to. And maybe that made sense in the past, but it doesn't make sense now, because now what it's done is it traps people. If they aren't rich enough to move into a certain district, they don't have access to the school in that district. And that's not fair. The whole point of our money is to make sure all Oregon kids, regardless of where they are, can have this money and be able to get a good education. So the system right now basically locks kids into a assigned district school based on where they live. And I think the unions like it that way because it's a no fuss, no muss. They don't have to compete. They don't have to listen to parents at school boards. They're not accountable to the product they deliver to the students. And it just isn't working for the child. So we're trying to break through that barrier and say, no, a child should be able to move freely. They don't like that idea. So they were trying to sue and come up with reasons to basically shut it down entirely. Luckily, the Supreme Court and the Attorney General said, no, this is just something about freedom. Parents should, they know their kids, they should be able to choose. So we were able to get through the Supreme Court process, and now we're out gathering the signatures for these two measures. And then ultimately, the citizens can vote in November, and hopefully 50% plus one will vote in favor, and that will help all of Oregon students. And there's already 32 states with these kind of policies. So if it's good enough for those kids out there, why isn't it good enough for our Oregon kids? Our Oregon kids are just as good, and they deserve as many opportunities. So we really need to bring this here to Oregon to level the playing field, get all kids the access to whichever learning environment works for them.
Hey, Donna, I'm thinking though too, we've got 54 years working in the public schools. Our kids went to public schools. We went to public schools. And so it's hard for us because we're sitting there going, man, oh man, they at times they've been great and times they've been okay. And now we're in this mode of not so much. I think, and I know the teachers union wouldn't agree with me, that when you create competition, when you create like a free market situation like that, that the public schools will have to sharpen their tools and get better. And for all those people who can't or don't want to, go to a homeschool situation or a private school, I think they'll get better over time. That would be my hope. That might be a little bit optimistic, but we still have a lot of good teachers in public schools, and I think they would love this. But it would definitely be a challenge.
Well, and the studies have shown over the last 30 years that it does exactly that. When school choice comes to a state and basically surrounds a district public school, the district public school organically improves. And the studies show that it helps the students who use the program and transfer out of the public school. And it also helps the students who remain there. Because again, if we're all competing as schools for the same students, based on just economic factors, they're going to up their game and they're going to say, hey, there's 650,000 students in Oregon. We want to compete for all of those. So this school is going to compete against that school. This school will compete against that one. It's not a private versus public. It's a what is best for the child. So we are not taking these measures and telling a public school they have to change. Absolutely not. We're just saying, let the parents choose. And another thing that happens is when you get school choice in a state, just allowing the parents the ability and the power to leave, even though most of them don't leave, that helps give an incentive to the public schools to listen to the parents at the school boards and to deliver a product that's superior to what they had been delivering for the students. So it's a win-win for everybody. It's the same pot of money. It just flows to all the students like it's supposed to. And each school then competes against the other ones to say, hey, I can deliver a better product, or I can be better. And it also allows the public schools, if they want to sort of customize and have a different culture. Maybe they want to be a school that focuses on STEM subjects or arts or anything like that. And so if they want to, they can change. If they don't want to, they don't have to. The point about these two measures is it's freedom. The parents can choose whichever one they want. Nobody has to choose. Nobody has to leave. It just lets parents leave. And the whole goal here is to make sure that the kids are able to go to an environment that works for them, whether it's more difficult or less challenging or more hand-holding or less hand-holding, whichever environment the child needs, that should be the criteria here. So school choice enables parents to be able to make those choices.
Right.
That gives a great opportunity. I'm so thankful that you've done all the research and the hard work for parents out there who might not be able to because of time or some other, but now they'll have an opportunity if we get enough signatures and it's put on the ballot that our families can have a choice. Our parents can have a choice of how their kids learn. I've heard that over the years, not that they want to necessarily move out of public school or go to a private or what their other choices are, but they're just going to have an opportunity to make that choice. And it's not just by the zip code that they live in, or because they live out in a very wealthy area or a very poor area.
Dawn,
another thing that's important is, just as it's important that the kids get to choose the learning environment that works for them, the teachers also get to choose the teaching environment, because we have wonderful teachers and maybe they're trapped in an environment that doesn't allow them to bring their skill set to the students that they want to teach. So once you have school choice and all of their school opportunities are available, the teachers can move freely too. And the studies show that there's more teacher satisfaction. They get to transfer to an environment that works for them. And if they want to stay in a public school, because the public schools are now having to compete with all the other schools, public schools value their teachers more. So there's an opportunity for the teachers' pay to increase, or be able to have the teachers have maybe a customization that they want so that they can teach in the manner that they were trained and that their heart brings them to. So it helps the students, it helps the teachers, and it helps the schools themselves, because we don't want to have a public school that is empty or half empty and there's no chance because there's not enough people living in that neighborhood to go there. So with open enrollment, it doesn't matter where you live anymore. You can live in one district, and if your parent works in the other one, the parent can drive you in the morning and you can go to that other school. So it just opens up a lot of opportunities, makes full use of the buildings, makes full use of the money, and there's more transparency in how the money is spent, so it helps the taxpayers. So it's really a win-win for everybody.
My question was going to be like, being in the public school, coaching for a long time, both of us, there's so many benefits that the public schools enjoy over a lot of the private schools and homeschooling. They have all the facilities. They have all of the taxpayer money that's paid for a lot of this stuff. When you look at, like in our school district in Newburgh, we have some pretty nice facilities. You look at what Mountainside and Sherwood just built. I mean, these amazing big public high schools. So they have all the advantages right there. If they just produced a great product, people are going to stay there.
Absolutely. And that's part of the benefit of school choice. Nobody has to move. Nobody has to transfer to a different environment, but having the ability and the power behind your choice will make the public schools organically want to step up and say, hey, I have to act now for my students. I don't just rely on the school bus pulling up and 34 kids coming out. Instead, the schools have to say, we want more students and we want to keep the ones that we have. So they'll listen to the parents at the school board. They'll be more receptive to delivering a product that serves the needs. And each school district can be different. We have 197 different school districts. They can retain their own personality, but they have the shot of having more students in the classroom if they want, or if some students leave, then they can have fewer kids, but they can adapt to what the needs of the student and the parent are. And sadly, we've had about 30,000 students leave over the last 2 years for a lot of different reasons. So there's a lot of spaces available in the public schools. And with school choice, there's an ability for parents to move their kids back there if the schools start listening and deliver the product they want, or give parents the ability to opt out of curricula that they don't approve of or something like that. So it allows the schools to adapt to the needs of the student. And that's where we want it to be.
Hey, Don, another question for you is, at Stand Tall, we really want to educate parents. We really want parents, because we've both been big proponents of helping parents, even when we were coaching and Judy, being a teacher, me being an ed assistant. We just really want to help parents. A lot of times they're so busy, it's so hard to understand and navigate their kids' education. And so as we're talking today and then in the future, we're going to keep pushing for that. But we really want to encourage the parents to know that this is not the public schools they went to. This is not like it was 10 years ago or 15 years ago, or certainly 20, 30 years ago at all. It's not even close. And I would hope that the people listening today, and we have many friends that still teach, they can't say anything. They cannot say anything in a public school setting, or they're going to get rocked pretty hard. And it's frustrating for them. They have to kind of abide by what's going on from Oregon Department of Education on down. And it's really frustrating with all the agenda-based things thrown at them. And I would certainly like to see our kids have the benefit of a lot of these good public education instructors that they're not getting now, because we've lost our focus. I mean, that's my big thing. I think we've just lost our focus.
Well, and school choice will help that, because the parent who knows the needs of their child can say, my child, little Johnny, he needs, a smaller classroom with more hands-on instruction or a different focus. So the parent can then seek out that environment, whether that's a charter school or a private school, or maybe it's a homeschool. And maybe someone else wants to be in a big classroom and have access to the band and the sports and the, arts and crafts and all those. And the setting of a public district school is better. And so it's important that we give those choices to the parents who are aware of the needs of their children. And also the teachers will have the ability, as I mentioned, to be able to move to an environment where they can teach in the way that they want. So that if they're feeling that they're stifled right now because of government mandates and government rules, they can then opt to go to a different environment where they don't have those. And one thing that's wonderful too is that a private school is able to have teachers that aren't certified by a certain college or whatever. So they can have retired college professors who just want to keep their toe in a little bit. Maybe they taught calculus at college at Oregon State or something, and they don't want to completely retire. So they could go work for a private school where they wouldn't have the ability to do that in a public school because of all the rules and regulations, but they could go work in a private school. So that would make it available to all these students at that private school. They could learn from someone who's been out in the trenches and teaching at a higher level And then by the same token, you could have a business person who maybe they want to retire, that sold their business, but they still want to give back to the community, so they could teach at a private school. So while a private school might not have all the shiny buildings that a public district does, they can offer a different focus, which might be with their teachers. So that allows the parents to decide what's most important for their child. And the parents know that much better than some administrator or bureaucrat somewhere that just says, hey, you live in this one district, you better go to this school only. And the parent can say, no, I shop at different grocery stores, and I go to different gas stations, and I choose different doctors. I want the same ability to choose a different learning environment for my child.
Yeah, you think, Donna, too, like maybe this will be a good example. We kind of don't read newspapers anymore. I mean, not much. I mean, we used to be just huge proponents of the Oregonian. Those days are gone. And any young people, pretty much, you know, they don't, they do podcasts and stuff. They don't do newspapers. So I think another thing we're a little bit danger in public schools and education is the fact that the world's changing. And it's changing very quickly with everything, you know, that's popping up for information. And we need to adapt with it. You said something a few minutes ago about a public school could choose a different lane a little bit. Like, let's just take Tualatin, Sherwood, Newburgh, McMinnville. We're kind of all up and down the, you know, Highway 99 here, right? And in 30 minutes, we could be at any one of those schools. So McMinnville could be focusing on a little bit heavy into business, and Newburgh could be focusing a little bit heavy into sciences, and Sherwood could be focusing a little bit heavier on the arts, whatever it is. And then Tualatin would be in their lane. Probably football, because you guys are good at football. But you know, I like that because I think in the public school setting, they have a lot of advantages. There's a lot of good teachers. It's sad to me that the teachers' unions do not want that, because that's what's best for the child. That's what's best for the student. Then ultimately next would be best for the parents. And that's really sad to me, that we have people making decisions, taking things to the Supreme Court, not for the student, but because that's what they want.
It is discouraging. And I can only think back to 1908. I wasn't alive then, even though I might look like it. But Henry Ford said, you can have any Model T as long as it's black. Well, that's stifling. And we need to move past that to the point where one size doesn't fit all. Kids learn differently. So you can't plunk them all in the same environment and expect them all to come out with a good education. It's just not going to work. So COVID really opened the eyes of a lot of parents to realize, wow, this is what's being taught. Maybe I don't agree with it. Or my child doesn't do as well at home in their own bedroom with a computer. They need to have hands-on. Maybe they need to have more, I think it's tactile, or where you're touching things. Or maybe they need to have their friends around them. So COVID really brought up an awareness out that students are unique, they learn differently, and it really helped the movement of saying, let's let parents who know their children, they're with them 24/7, and they can discern which is the best environment. Let's let them choose. And then the teachers can choose, and then the schools can kind of model themselves on what they want to be too. There's no real point in having it all be a production line. We aren't building Model Ts, we're educating children. They're unique, they're going to learn differently at different speeds with different focuses. So let's, you know, adapt to that system. And I think another thing that COVID showed was that the schools are too big and too monstrous to really pivot very quickly. So there was a lot of lag time where the schools remained closed, where some of the smaller environments could turn on a dime and they could adapt to a different learning environment. And those kids were able to charge ahead and continue their education, where a lot of the public schools kids were really held back, and they're still suffering. And there's still national reports showing that Oregon kids in particular are not catching up like the rest of the nation. And so we really need to bring solutions that help the kids. We don't really care which building survives. It's not the building, it's the child that really needs the focus. And the money should flow to that child, because that's the point of the money.
Yeah, I think Judy's got something to ask you. Go ahead.
No, I think that you're exactly right. I think we opened, and parents had an opportunity to see what was happening in the classroom, you know, and how their kids were learning or not learning, and how they could turn on their screen or turn off their screen or not be on the screen. And so I think there's so many opportunities now. I'm really excited about the school choice for our kids and for our grandkids, so they can have a chance if they're hands-on, or if they love to just read books or want to be in literature, or they want to have more lessons when it comes to, maybe the arts, or maybe they need to take more afternoon classes in band or choir or private lessons. They'll have that opportunity to do that. So we're challenging parents to share this information and get some signatures out there, because we want those signatures, and we want this so that we can vote on this in November.
Well, I think on that too, Dawn, I don't want to be done yet, but Judy just mentioned it. So for everybody listening in, and Donna, we're all in on helping you get signatures, because I think it'll help public school, and I think it'll help private schools. And we've coached at a 1A school. It was a blast. We had 5 years there, and we just loved it. We got to see all the things we didn't get to see at the 6A level, and they're both great. There's a big advantage of going into Mohawk High School on a Friday night, and there's 500 people hanging off the light bulbs for a basketball game. It was so fun. And but then there's the advantages of the big school. They can offer things, but we want to help do these signatures, and so we will stay in contact with you like right after this session. And I really believe it can happen. I think we can. I'm an optimist, but I really believe in the next 2 voting cycles that we can move this state. Not necessarily Republican or Democrat, red or blue. My goal is to move it to a point where we have good common sense decisions being made at Salem, and we don't have people like George Soros type money or any money that's influencing our the voting members of Congress and the Senate down in the state of Oregon. I was just down there Wednesday watching some of that, and it's hard to watch. So we want to help you, and we'll do everything we can to get people to get these signatures going. And so anybody that's listening out there, we talk about this all the time. We're part of Newburgh Dundee Strong here. It was a grassroots movement that led us through lots of elections and recalls, and we're 10 for 11 winning, just because I think we had the right things we were going for. They were good common sense. But as we did that, we found that it's a lot of work, and Donna needs a lot of help getting this thing done. And what we found is there's we identified 6 different areas to serve. You could pray, which everybody could pray if they're a praying person. They can give some money, because this won't be free. 3, they can lick stamps, do something very minor, or they could get in and start getting signatures. That would be like level 4. Get involved and get something done. And Judy and I laugh about it, but it's like the difference between, you don't have to watch Jeopardy every night. Go get a few more signatures. Fill up one of those 10 sheets, and then fill up another one, and fill up another one. And this would be exciting, because if you think about the end game for the kids, it would be huge.
Well, what's important too is that even if you don't have kids in the system right now, if you're grandparents or you've never had kids or you're single, and whatever the reason, it ultimately helps Oregon. Because if we graduate children right now without a skill set, they're probably going to have a real tough time, and maybe they're going to go into crime, maybe they're going to go into drugs, maybe they're going to go into homelessness, and that's a tragedy. All those children wasted. So if we can correct that before it gets to that point by giving them a good education now, giving them those foundational skills, when they get out, they won't need to turn to crime or homelessness or drugs. And those are some big issues in Oregon overall. And if we can stem the tide of our kids coming through the schools to not go into those environments, that will help cure the homelessness, the drugs, and the crime situation in Oregon. So we have to think broader than just right now letting a parent choose or a teacher choose where to teach. It also helps all of Oregon, because it helps these kids become productive and happier in life, and that will contribute to Oregon. And this is not a political thing. This is not a Republican, Democrat, private school, public school. This is just, let's help these kids. And we can't rely on the legislature. They're, squirreling around doing other stuff. So we as parents decided we've got to do this. So we're the only ones in the country doing it as constitutional amendments. Everybody else in the other states did statutory, where the 2 bodies of the legislature got together and worked it out and the governor signed it. We're not going to get that in Oregon. So we took it on ourselves as moms, dads, grandparents, teachers, to draft these 2 measures, to bring them out, to gather signatures mano a mano between parents and other parents, and then put it on the ballot so all Oregonians can vote on it. It's not political. It's not trying to pits one group against the other. It's let's get all working together to help these kids. And so it's a lot of fun to do too, because you get to meet a lot of nice people, and gathering signatures is easy. You could just go to the website, print out each of the 10 liners. They're double-sided, so you always either can tell your printer to do that, or you have to turn the paper over, which befuddles me. But anyway, it's not hard to print them out. Once you do, just go up and down your street and ask your neighbors, or take it to work and ask your friends, or at the family gatherings, ask there, or join us at one of our events. We do all sorts of fun things. We go to gun shows and garden shows and parades and all sorts of things. So it's fun. You get to get out and meet people. Or if you're shy and you're like, oh, I don't want to meet people, I don't want to go out there, we have a lot of things to do behind the scenes where you could help us. So however much time you have, however much money, yeah, we got to pay printing, we have to pay postage, we're trying to do advertising, so we always could use money. But mostly it's just, let's get the focus back where it needs to be. Make sure these kids get a good education, all the kids, not just Democrat and Republican kids or public school kids, private schools. This is for all the kids. And this kids, I don't know. I mean, I've spent the last 3 years doing this, don't take a dime out of it. I'm trying to help kids that I'll never know, just because it's the right thing to do, because as parents, we love our kids. We want our kids to get a great education, all the kids. So I would hope everybody can come to our website, educationfreedomfororegon.com. You can sign up as a volunteer. We'll send you materials if you want, or you can print them out. We'll send you the newsletter if you want. You can call me, you can text me, you can email me. All the information's on the website. We just need more people to help us. There's plenty of people out there that want to sign. We just need to get in front of them.
Donna, can you slowly say that website one more time?
My dad always told me I talk too fast.
Just a bit.
Education Freedom for Oregon, educationfreedomfororegon.com.
We'll make sure that we put it on our website too. Stand tall with
Okay,
Dave.
good.
So we'll make sure that information is there.
Plug us. Go ahead. Keep plugging us.
Yes.
And we're old enough to be grandparents? Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
we really
okay.
are.
Hey, I would just say to everybody out there, on behalf of Stand Tall with Dave Brown and Judy Brown, this is exactly what we want to do. This is exactly why we want Stand Tall to be that media type source to get this kind of information out. Donna, you're amazing. We appreciate what you're doing a lot.
Yes.
I think it's people like you that make us, encouraged every day. We've been through a lot of tough stuff on the school board in Newburgh, as you probably know, but we get to meet people like you all the time. So we'll look forward to meeting you in person. And it's so fun to see people that are excited about stuff, because we don't have to be in this doom and gloom we've been in the last 4 years. I think we can get back to stuff. And Oregon's a great place to live. We tell people all the time, you can move to Texas or Tennessee or Idaho, but it's going to come to your doorstep. And I want to stay right here in Oregon. We're 70 minutes from the beach, and that's where we like to go and just relax. And so we're staying here, and we're going to help you. And I would encourage everybody out there to, take a look in the mirror and decide, how you could help Donna and all the people with her, because it's really not about Donna. She's already said that. Judy and I don't care about that part. What we care about is having great education for our kids, and that just makes the job of the parents that much easier. And then a lot of grandparents that have been forced into being parents and guardians. And at the end of the day, I'll challenge you with this. When I've coached thousands of kids, and at the end of the day, what they really want out of education is when they graduate from Tualatin, Sherwood, Newburgh, Mac, Corvallis, Reedsport, it does not matter. What they want is a great opportunity to go to the next level. Because once they graduate from high school, and if they do, they just want opportunities. And when they're 18, 19, 20, 21, they know if they got a good education or not. And we talk to a lot of young people right now who are going, man, it wasn't that good. And that's sad, because as adults, that's our job to help those kids. And so, Donna, we sure appreciate everything you're doing. And we will put it on this, and we're going to help you get signatures. We're going to start printing off and get signatures for you.
Good. And it, like you've mentioned, it's not just me. Maybe I came up with the idea, but there's hundreds of people around me. Yeah. We're all working. We all have the same goal here, is to help the kids. So we attract, grandparents and young kids and teenagers. I had my son and all of his college buddies helping. We have folks that are still working. We have folks that are retired. We're all commonly working to help the kids. And it's a lot of fun too. You get to meet some great people. We have a Monday night Zoom call where people can ask questions, get updates. So it's a good group to be working with, because we all care we're all putting the needs of the children first. It's not about anybody's particular situation. Nobody's making money off this. It's all about helping these kids. And that's the point. And that's what our education dollars should be too, is to make sure all of our kids, let's level the playing field. All kids should have the ability to move freely among the learning environments. And that's what this does. And it helps public schools, it helps private schools, it helps the teachers, it helps the students. And ultimately, because it'll help all of those, it'll help Oregon. So everybody has a dog in this fight. Everybody will benefit. So we really need everybody to help us to the extent that they can, with time or money or spreading the word, and just helping us and praying for us too, because it's a lot of work, but it's good work, and it's work that's well worth doing. So we encourage everybody to join us.
Well, I'll go back to those 6 points. Number one, you can pray for Donna and the whole organization. We can do that every day. Number two, we can give some money, $5. I mean, that's one cup of coffee or more at Starbucks. 3, you can lick or do something really small. Sounds like there's a lot of jobs to do. 4, you can do a bigger job. You can jump in there and be a part of a group of people. 5, you could be a leader of a group and really get out there and go for it. Go out and get 20,000 signatures for this. Be that level 5. And I think level 6 is run for governor. Run for city hall. Commissioners, whatever. Go do something. The library board. You can be that person. So there's a lot of things to get involved with. Donna, we sure appreciate you on a snowy Saturday taking the time to be with us at Stand Tall.
Yeah, thanks, Donna.
Well, thank you. Absolutely. And I'd love to come back and give you some updates, because this is an effort that is a lot of fun, and it takes parents and volunteers to pull it off. So we need help, and I'd love to be able to give you updates.
Well,
Great.
we'll
Thank
meet
you,
you
Donna.
soon. We'll get coffee and meet soon. Okay.
All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.